here we are, and here I am. Good morning, and welcome to Electronic Literature. This is a live stream for Section 1. Today will be our second day of class, I guess. No, I guess our first day of class, actually, talking about interactive fiction. I introduced it on Friday, but here we are, and we'll be getting going here. Let me just turn some things off and some other things on, and yeah, as you see, I've got a slideshow, as I often do for these days, so I'll share that link in a moment in Discord. If you are saying good morning, thank you for saying good morning, and it's good to see you all. It is a nice morning out here. It's a nice sunny day. Today, I do have a lot I want to get to, so I'm going to be jumping in pretty quickly, but just kind of warming up a little bit because I still show, Twitch only shows 12 viewers still, so I don't know if there's, I know sometimes that count isn't up to date, but that's quite a few fewer than normal, so I want to make sure people have a chance to get online, because there's some important things I wanted to cover pretty early on here. There's like a sunspot right behind me. I don't know if I can do anything about that. I guess we'll just have to wait for the sun to move. Hopefully it's not too distracting. It won't distract me too much. But as you can see, I got the bird cam going over here, and you never know what's going to happen on the bird cam. So keep an eye on that, I guess. See if anything interesting shows up. Definitely let me know if you do see something interesting show up. Let me know in the chat. I have the chat up here on this monitor and the other chat there, so I'll see it, whichever chat you like to use. But yeah, thanks especially for saying good morning, because it helps me keep track of who is here and who perhaps is not. I'm just kind of looking online. Yeah, a ton of people aren't online at the moment, so maybe, if you are watching and, you're in the class, then you should try to be on Discord as well. Both Discord and Twitch, right? I know in some cases, like if you're on mobile, that might be awkward to navigate, and I'm not gonna insist really, but if you have a desktop computer, if you can watch both, I think that's often better, because you can interact in Discord a little bit more easily, I think, than Twitch. Okay, so I don't know if you can notice, by the way, but I changed my frame rate on the stream. It's down to 29.97, like the standard HD stream resolution and frame rates. I figured that would be easier on the streaming server, and I think I look okay at 30 frames a second, just as good as I do at 60 frames a second. So hopefully that's okay with everybody, and hopefully that continues to work okay. As usual, if you have any issues with the audio or the video, let me know. This is, by the way, I should also mention, streaming to YouTube as well. So if you're watching there, hopefully you've got, hopefully that's working. I'm just monitoring on Twitch, so I'm not monitoring any chat messages on YouTube. So I'll see those later, I guess, but I don't have a way to view them. I don't have it pulled up right now for me to see those. So if you do have anything to say while I'm streaming, then please use the chat in Discord. Yeah, I still just see 12 viewers, so again, that may not be up to date, but I don't know. Well, I'll get started. I'm going to talk about interactive fiction today. This is a lecture and also some demos. That's why I think it makes sense to do the, okay, that's good to know. Thanks, guys. It is good to use this Twitch platform for demos in particular. So that's why a stream is a good idea today. So here's the link for the slides if you want to look at it. Here are slides. Clickety clackety. I'm getting used to my keyboard, by the way. The clicking noise is still pretty extreme, but that's all right. My daughter's room is nearby, so whenever I'm working at night, she makes me close the door because the typing keeps her up, and she's like around the corner. She says it's too loud if I'm in here typing and she's trying to sleep. Okay, so let's talk about interactive fiction. Let me talk about interactive fiction a bit. So your homework today was to read the chapter in Perusal, really this first part of the chapter. It's actually like the first 2/3 of the chapter from Scott Redberg's book, and he gives us a nice overview of the formal features of interactive fiction that are interesting, and a bit of the history of interactive fiction as a form. And I want to talk about some of those things here in this presentation as well, just to underscore a couple of things from that chapter. But if you read the chapter and you annotated it, then you, I think, did a good job of getting to those big ideas that are the important things that I want to make sure you know. Several of you had some interesting questions in Perusal, so I tried to answer a lot of them this morning. So or last night, I guess it was last night. So if you have I think Perusall sends you an email whenever someone replies to your comments. At least I get those emails. So you may have already seen that, but if not, just go back in and Perusall at some point and see what others have said in response to your comments, or that I've said in response to your comments. I did notice, by the way, in Perusall, like I set up this assignment to be anonymous, but I saw some of you were able to post with your names and reference each other's names. So I don't know exactly how that works. Some of them were anonymous, and they show as anonymous because in my view, they show up as pink. I'm not going to put up on screen because then that would show your actual name. So I actually see your name, but your comment is in pink with a pink background, and that tells me that it's anonymous. Others, though, were just regular comments. I don't know if you can see my name on them. I think you can. I hope you can, because I don't need to be anonymous. I don't care, but it might be confusing, I guess, if it does show up anonymously, like who is this person replying to my comments. So I just take a look at that, and we can talk about it some more on Wednesday perhaps, and just kind of make sure that it's making sense in there. But I think, yeah, several interesting questions and comments about things. I'll try to answer some of these today in the presentation, but also just look at the document and we'll talk about it some more. Okay, so your other homework was Zork, and I asked you to play Zork and get to the Underground Kingdom. So I wanted to make sure you did that on your own, but if you had to find a walkthrough, that was okay. I didn't see anyone posting any questions about it in Discord, so I'm assuming that you were able to do that okay. I will be asking you a question about that experience on the quiz, so if you were not able to do it, you should still do it, and I'm really going to insist on that you do that. This is, homework. It's a different kind of homework, but it is the essence of this genre, so you need to make sure you can do it. And I will do it. I'll show you how to do it just in a moment, but make sure you get to the Underground Kingdom in Zork, Underground Empire in Zork. All right, so I wanted to mention your homework for Wednesday as well, right at the outset here. These are the things that I would like you to play for Wednesday. So these are two games that I would like you to play with much more completion than Zork. I don't think it's technically possible to complete Galatea, I guess, unless you think of it in the completionist sense of finding every possible outcome, but I certainly don't expect you to do that by Wednesday. These are linked in the schedule, so if you find them here, you can go Galatea, Photopia right there. And the links here also should be the same. And let me give you a couple of things to notice about Galatea. So Galatea is a work where the main thing that you're doing is having a conversation with an inanimate, or not inanimate, but a statue, Galatea, and you're talking to her and trying to understand her. And there are different things that you can try for in this conversation, like different outcomes. There is a walkthrough you can find on Emily Short's website, I believe, but if not there, then elsewhere, I'm sure, that explains how to get to certain endings. And so just let me tell you a few of the things so you know what's possible. I encourage you to try these on your own, but if you do need to look at the walkthrough, that's okay. See if you can leave with her, get her to leave the gallery with you. That might be one of the harder endings. See if you can get the Wizard of Oz ending. See if you can get the an ending where she kills you. That happens. So see if you can get different Greek gods to show up. Athena and Aphrodite are the main two, I think. That might be the only two. So spend a little time with Galatea, see what you can find out. Right. So the thing that is really interesting about this work is characterization, like how we come to know and learn things about Galatea, but also the other thing that's kind of hidden here is that you are playing as a character. So like most games, interactive fictions, your player character has some identity. Often that's a blank slate, but it actually isn't here. So this is kind of a spoiler, but not really. See what you can learn about yourself as the character you're controlling as you play this game. So, just a couple of things like you might need to know. This is not a game about exploring mazes or finding treasure or anything. It's really a game about talking to Galatea. So ask Galatea about herself. Read the placard, she says. That's what it's there for, after all. So you can learn about her by doing this, and there's actually a pretty good help system in here too, I think. So it gives you an idea about how to do certain things. All right, so that's Galatea. Again, please do play it. This is required. Photopia. So Photopia is a work, someone mentioned it a while ago in Discovery, I think maybe Connor, but it's a game that you can play online here. You can also download it if you'd like and play it in something else, but this is a game that you need to complete all the way to the end. It is a game that is not as hard as it looks, if that makes sense. There are a couple little tricks to it, but basically it's relatively speaking, an easy game compared to other things. But okay, thanks, Eli. Yeah. So, well, I want you to get all the way through now. So this is the homework. If and when you get stuck, you should ask for help or Google it and try to figure out how to get unstuck. The game is not impossible. It is not impossible for you to complete it. It exists and it's well known. It's 20-something years old now, so it's a game that has been played and discussed quite a bit at this point. So there are ways to figure out how to get to the end. And if nothing else, of course, you can just ask, right? So ask in the tech support channel on Discord, how do I get out of the crystal maze? That's the place that I got stuck the first time I played this for quite a long time, but I eventually figured it out. Or maybe someone helped me, I don't remember. It's been so long now. But it is a game that can be frustrating if you get stuck at that point, or there's certainly some other points. Let me give you actually a quick walkthrough of the intro section to give you, or the first two sections to give you a sense of what kinds of things you can do. So notice this prologue. Will you read me a story? Read you a story? What fun would that be? I've got a better idea. Let's tell a story together. I'm not going to read all this, but speeding down Montgomery Boulevard, the streetlights are bright, unbearably bright. You have to squint as hard as you can to keep your retinas from bursting into flame. Welcome to the land of the living, bud. So you are riding in this car. You're in the passenger seat. Rob is driving. Let's see. Turning off radio. Hey, I'm listening to that. Rob complains. They're trying to get somewhere. Rob looks at the scrap of paper with the address on it as the two of you go screaming through an empty intersection. Oh man, it's a fake address. Hey there. They're right on Bartlett Hill Road. Sweet. Okay. Look. All right. So they go through a red light, as you can see here. You look up, hey, it's red. You say, what? Rob says. The light, you say, red, as in stop. But you don't stop. You don't even slow down as you fly into the intersection, and the light stays an unmistakable red. And then we switch colors. There are several different colors throughout this work, and color-coded sections, I suppose. You are Wendy McKay, first girl on the red planet. There is a goal you're trying to reach in this section. You are trying to get the seed pod back to the spaceship. This is a point in the game where you can explore north, south, east, west. But I will give you a hint about this section. I will just say the hint instead of demonstrating it because I want to move on to some other things. But the hint is that whatever direction you go in at first is correct. And the directions you go in to go back to the ship are those same directions in reverse. So the easiest way to get to it is just to keep going north, 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 north until you can't go north anymore, and then go south, 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 south back to the ship. Otherwise, you can get lost. So that's a hint there. Okay, really not even a hint, just telling you how to do it. So that's my advice about that. All right, so again, you have to get to the end of Photopia for us to talk about it. Like, the ending is a big deal. If you don't get to the ending, you're not going to be able to discuss it intelligently. Like, this is, you're not going to have a competent conversation about it. We need to have a conversation about this game in terms of its ending, and you need to get to it on your own. So please do that. If you can't, ask for help so I can help you get to the ending. So don't come to class and think you're prepared if you have not gotten to the ending of Photopia. I think I've made that clear enough by now. So, okay, moving on. Let's talk about a little bit of the timeline just to get us a basic sense of the range here. So 1970s is when this gets started. Colossal Cave Adventure by Will Crowther is the first thing like this. There's some earlier things that are important predecessors like Hunt the Wampus and Eliza, which I'll show you in a moment. But as far as all of the tropes that we associate with this genre, Colossal Cave Adventure does pretty much all of them. And so 1975 is when he starts this. It's enhanced by Don Woods a little bit later. A lot of interesting archival work has gone into understanding this game and its origins and the different versions of it throughout the years. But it was well known. It was circulated on the ARPANET, so many computing systems had it. It was designed for mainframe kind of style computers, so you would have to install it in your system, and then you'd have access to it through a terminal on the system. Or as I think Crowther originally played it, it was a teletype, so he would connect to the mainframe at his work. Like, so at home, he would be typing into a terminal, but it would print out the results in front of him on continuous paper, like on the paper that has like the dots on the side. I don't know if you remember that kind of paper, but you would print back the output. So we're used to see, when we do these things like in Photopia, like I was just doing, or Snack Time, or these other things, you see the output almost immediately. But when Colossal Cave Adventure was first played on that kind of system, you'd have to wait like a minute or two for the response to come back. So a very different experience. Anyway, so 1979, Zork is very much, I guess, inspired by the success of Colossal Cave Adventure. Colossal Cave Adventure was just distributed for free, and so it was never meant to be a commercial product. But at this point in the early 1980s, late 70s, early 1980s, the personal computing market is coming into existence with the relative affordability of systems like the Apple II and the different IBM PCs and Amigas, and like there's a whole world of consumer PCs coming along in the early 1980s. And Zork is a game created by this company, by these guys at MIT, and then they founded the company Infocom to sell it as a commercial product, and it did pretty well for a few years. But by the mid-80s, graphics pretty much took over, and it's not exactly the case that graphics simply made text-only games redundant, but they do different things, and they were more popular as commercial products, certainly. And so around 1986, Infocom sells their company to Activision, which is a big video game publisher, and Activision just basically lets it limp along until it pretty much peters out by the early 90s, and it's gone. So by the early 90s then, Graham Nelson releases Inform, which is a programming language and compiler that you can use to create things like Zork, and then people start making things like Zork. And so a hobbyist community develops and flourishes making things like Zork, but really making more advanced, more experimental, more avant-garde kinds of things, because this is a community that isn't necessarily interested in selling these as software, like selling it as a product. These are people who have day jobs but do this kind of thing for fun. So they have a lot more fun with it, and they push the genre into really interesting new directions. That's where we get things like Photopia. I also just mentioned here, there's plenty of other points of interest along the lines here, but just as far as laying the kind of technological framework here, this is what I'm doing in this timeline. Chris Clemmis releases Twine in 2009. So you've all seen Twine in different forms already this semester. Twine is a hypertext platform, but many people use Twine to make interactive fiction. When you do that, you're not usually creating a text, like a typing interface with a parser, but you're creating links with names like go north and go south. And so you click on a link that says go north, or you click on a link that says go south. So those things are formally very similar to interactive fiction, like when you type those commands. And so even though technically what you're doing is hypertext in the sense that you're clicking a link, formally or generically what you're doing is interactive fiction because you're exploring a world, like you have a spatial sense to it. Okay, so hopefully that's clear, but we'll talk about this kind of stuff a bit more next week. Okay, so some terminology just to kind of clarify or explain again, I suppose. A parser. So this is probably the key distinguishing feature of interactive fiction. I've mentioned it a few times, but let me just show it to you. There it is, right there. The greater than sign, the place where you type. That's what symbolizes the parser. Technically, the parser is the thing that receives the input as you type it in. So it's actually a little bit behind that, but it's figured with that. Like that's a figurative way of referring to it. So here it is in Galatea, same thing. And it really comes from and is based on just the command line. So if you open a terminal or command line in Windows, that's the same kind of thing you see there as you see here. That used to be the main way you would interact with your computer. Like that was all you would do. Like you would type commands in that environment and you would see what happens, or try to run programs or write programs or do different things. But that heritage is what we still see in the parser of interactive fiction. So that's the parser, the thing that takes your input. A couple other terms, since a couple of you had some questions about just kind of video game stuff. So the player character, non-player character, these are terms that are used in video games as well. So when we talk about the player character, that's the person you are playing as, or the animal, I guess, in the case of Snack Time. NPCs or non-player characters are everyone else. So characters or beings in the world that you can usually interact with, or maybe just even see, do things, or know about. But these are characters that you are not controlling, but they are characters. So they are in the world somewhere. So in Snack Time, I keep referring to that because that's the one I think you all might still be thinking of as kind of the first one you played. You play as Hardy the Bulldog, so that's the player character. The human, who is referred to as your pet, that sleeps on the couch, that is the non-player character in that game. We will encounter many more non-player characters, and we will encounter many player characters. In Galatea is the non-player character. There may be more, but she's the main one. There may be more depending on your choices and how you talk to her and so on. Different people may show up. All of them are non-player characters, but you as the player character have an identity as well that you can learn about as you play the game. In Photopia, you play as quite a few different people, so there are quite a few player characters, and that's something you should always keep an eye on. And so when it says right here, you are Wendy McKay, first girl on the red planet. We are now playing as someone different than what I was playing in the first scene when you're in the car. That's someone else. And something to keep track of as you play Photopia is, who am I right now? And you can sometimes find that out by like looking at yourself. So look at me. You hardly need to be reminded what you look like, Wendy. Even if you didn't see yourself in the mirror every morning, the countless newspaper pictures and magazine covers would remind you. So if you ever get confused about who you are in Photopia, just say, look at me, and you'll find out. Okay, so that's the player, non-player character. Interpreter, so this one's a bit more hidden, but the interpreter is the software that's running the game. So whenever you write a game like this, you write it in some programming language, probably in Form 7 at this point mostly, or TADS is another popular one. And then it is compiled into a game format, and there are many, but Z5 is a popular one. Z5 is the one based on Zork initially. And then you have some software that plays it, that actually runs it. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and show you Zork running in an interpreter called Gargoyle, which is a Windows interpreter, and it works nicely. I like it a lot. It looks good. Let's see. Let me find it here. I have not already created a window for it, so I gotta open it up here if I can find. I downloaded Zork a minute ago. There it is. All right, cool. So I need to add it as a source here in OBS so I can show you. Okay, that works. All right, there it is. So, and what you might notice, like, it's pretty similar to what you've seen already. You've got the parser. It's got a nicer, the font looks nicer. Like, the typography is rendered more elegantly. I think that's the main thing that the developer of Gargoyle advertises as a key feature of it to distinguish it from other works. It looks nice. It looks like a document. Let me see. Sorry, I'm moving this around so much. I'm trying to get this in a good place so I can show you a couple things about Zork. So this also is going to go a lot faster. I shared a different emulation of it this morning in Discord. I shared an Apple II emulation of it. And I think that looks better and it works a little bit better than the DOSBox one I shared earlier that emulates a DOS computer. It looks a little nicer, but this one looks nicer still than both of those. So this is Zork 1, The Great Underground Empire. West of house. You are standing in an open field west of a white house with a boarded front door. There's a small mailbox here. Often a good idea to look at yourself, and I typed "look at me." That's difficult unless your eyes are prehensile. So this is one of several ways in which Zork messes with you or has kind of snarky responses to certain things. So let me go ahead and open the mailbox, I guess. Leaflet. Welcome to Zork. Zork is a game of adventure, danger, and low cunning. In it, you will explore some of the most amazing territory ever seen by mortals. No computer should be without one. That's actually a good reminder that Zork is a game that when you play it, you might find it hard. You might find just the basic things that you do to play it awkward and challenging in certain ways. Sorry, I'm moving the bird cam up so we don't lose track of the birds, just in case. And yeah, it's important to remember that Zork, when it came out, was a big deal, and it was what's sometimes called a killer app in the sense that people were buying a computer so they could buy Zork. Like, it was a thing that convinced people that a computer was worth having in their house. And that's kind of hard to think back to. It's kind of hard to appreciate that in a sense because we have computers that do so much more. But it was a big deal. So as an anecdote, At UMW, our computer science program got started in around 1980, so around this time as well. And the creator of that department was Ernest Ackerman, and he was telling me about, he told me a story where they had a computer lab hooked up to a mainframe kind of computer. I don't know what kind of computer exactly, but probably PDP kind of computer. And so they had things like Zork installed on it. And he said parents would call him and complain and ask the university to remove Zork from those computers because their children, their students, were spending all their time playing Zork instead of going to classes or studying. So just to show you how popular this was, it was so much of an issue that people were kind of playing Zork instead of going to classes. So anyway, this is Zork. So let me drop the leaflet because I don't need it actually. You can just read it. Okay, so where was the house? We are west of the house, so we need to go east to the house. No, we can't. We can't go into the house. The door is boarded, and you can't remove the boards. All right, let's go around the house. Let's go around the north side of the house. North of the house, you are facing the north side of a white house. There is no door here, and all the windows are boarded up. To north, a narrow path winds through the trees. Now, you don't want to go into the forest at this point. I mean, you can find your way back out, but it just takes a long time. So I usually recommend if you end up in the forest, just go ahead and restart, and it doesn't matter. Okay, so but let's go south. Oh yeah, we can't go south. We need to go east. So now we are behind the house. You are behind the White House. A path leads into the forest to the east. In one corner of the house, there is a small window which is slightly ajar. Okay, so let's open that window. With great effort, you open the window far enough to allow entry. Cool. So now we can go into the house. You are in the kitchen of the White House. The table seems to have been used recently for the preparation of food. A passage leads to the west, and a dark staircase can be seen leading upward. A dark chimney leads down, and to the east is a small window which is open. On the table is an elongated brown sack smelling of hot peppers. Good sack. A bottle is sitting on the table. Get bottle. And so let's go. I don't know if I should do the thing that will cause me to get killed or not. I will, actually. Let's go. I'll show you what happens here and what you might do. This might have happened to you as well. So if you remember, there are some stairs here, so let's go up the stairs and see what happens. You have moved into a dark place. It is pitch black. You are likely to be eaten by a grue. What is a grue? I don't know, but I'm about to be eaten by it. Let's see what I should do. Let me look around. Look around. You can't go that way. Okay. I died. Okay, so you get a few turns, but oh no, you have walked into the slavering fangs of a lurking grue. Great. Okay, so let's take a look here. Well, you probably deserve another chance. I can't quite fix you up completely, but yeah, I can't quite fix you up completely, but you can't have everything. So we're back in the forest here. So it dropped us in the forest. Great. Okay. Well, let's just restart, and we'll go do the same thing we did before. Open the window. And so here we are. Let me go inside and get all. This is a little trick. Sometimes you just type get all and you pick up everything. All right, so then let's explore the house a little bit more. If we go to the west, we can see that there is a battery-powered brass lantern on the trophy case. So let's get lamp. So now that we have the lamp, we can turn on the lamp. If you remember when we went up here before, it says you moved into a dark place. It is pitch black. You are likely to be eaten by a grue. Well, we need to turn on the light so that the grue doesn't eat us. Turn on lamp. So there we go. So now we're in the attic, and now we can see what's here. We can see there's some rope. There's a knife, and that's all we need right now. So let's go back down, and then let's go back to the living room. Let's look around here. So this is the thing that you need to do to get to the Underground Empire. I'm almost to the Underground Empire. You were in the living room. There is a doorway to the east, a wooden door with strange Gothic lettering to the west, which appears to be nailed shut, a trophy case, and a large oriental rug in the center of the room. Above the trophy case hangs an elvish sword of great antiquity. Let's get that sword. All right, so let's see. So this is the first puzzle, I think. I mean, the basic working around of the game is kind of a puzzle. The lamp is kind of a puzzle. But this is the first real puzzle. And it's not even really a puzzle. It's just a secret thing that once you know it is easy, but until you know it is, you would just have to arrive at it by guessing or by checking something else. So if we look around, there are some objects here. So there's a doorway, there's a wooden door, there's a trophy case. And so each of these things, what we can do is examine them. So let's try examining case. Trophy case is empty. By the way, you don't have to type out the full word examine. You can just type X case. That works as well. Let's take a look at the rug. There's nothing special about the carpet. Okay, X door. The engravings translate to this space intentionally left blank. So, yeah, indeed. LOL. All right, so lots of jokes here. So, I guess, what should I try next? I know what to do, but I'm wondering if you know what to do. Or if, I mean, really what you should do is try to interact with the different objects in here. I've given you the hint that this is the room that you can use to access the underground empire. And so how can we interact with that? Or what are the different things we can do with this? So can we open the case? Yeah, okay, so can we put things in it? Yeah, we can. Okay, so that didn't really make any difference, but that tells us something about what we can do with these kinds of objects. Can we look, can we get the rug? The rug is extremely heavy and cannot be carried. Okay, interesting. Can we move the rug or look under it maybe? Hello, bird. There's a bird here. Look under rug. Underneath the rug is a closed trapdoor. As you drop the corner of the rug, the trapdoor is once again concealed from view. That's a hint. I mean, that's a pretty good thing. Let's try to take the case. Let's see. No, the trophy case is securely fastened to the wall. No, we can't take the case. All right, so we saw the trapdoor. It's under the rug. So what we're gonna do is, interesting idea. Let's try it. Burn rug. Oh yeah. I guess with a brass lantern. It's not telling me that I can do this. Yep, there's a bird, Mr. Junko. I think. I can't actually see it at the angle that it's at right now, but I can see it on the camera, so that's good. All right, so what we need to do is actually just move the rug. So with great effort, the rug is moved to one side of the room, revealing the dusty cover of a closed trap door. All right, so now we can open the door, or actually, let's examine it. Trap door is closed. Okay, so let's open it. The door reluctantly opens to reveal a rickety staircase descending down into darkness. I've got the lamp, which is on, so I'm good. Let me go down the stairs. D will take me down. The trap door crashes shut and you hear someone barring it. So this is actually a pretty creepy moment in this game, I think. If you notice what it says here. We've been exploring this world. It seems kind of like someone just left the house, right? It seems like the food was just recently prepared. That was what it says about the kitchen. But we've basically just been exploring the world and seeing what's in it. It feels pretty empty. What we've learned here, though, is that the world is not empty. There is someone else in the world, and they are right behind you. They've been behind you the whole time. Who that is, we will learn about. I think it's the thief, but that's the idea. Like this is there's someone else here. We're not alone in this world. I guess the GRU is a thing, but we don't ever interact directly with the GRU. It just kills us. So that doesn't quite work. All right, so I don't know how I got onto that. I got ahead of myself a little bit in terms of this, my slides, but I did want to show you that is what I'd hoped you accomplished in terms of homework. So if you did not do that, then you should do that. The next thing you would probably want to do is interact with the troll and kill the troll, or not. Actually, you have a choice. But in any case, that's Zork. All right, so let me hide this, and then I will move on with my slides. So just a couple of things. So text adventure is another term of art, another generic term that refers to this kind of thing and is often used especially for the earlier things where there's definitely a game going on, right? So for Zork, you have score, you have goals you're trying to accomplish, and you're trying to solve the puzzles. So it's definitely written that way. An interesting term, and this is kind of a joke term, but in the history of video games, we talk about genres, different genres of video games, and one popular genre, of course, is the first-person shooter game. Think of things like, I don't know, Doom or Call of Duty. These are first-person shooters. And so some people joke that a text adventure game, an interactive fiction work, is a second-person thinker because it addresses you in the second person, and what you do is you play these games as you think. And sometimes that's thinking about a puzzle, sometimes it's thinking about interpreting certain things in a literary sense, but we're definitely engaged in a different way by these things. I mean, that's kind of a joke term, but it makes sense to me. Okay, let's do a couple more demos. So this is Eliza, and Eliza is a chatbot. There are a couple of different implementations of Eliza for Discord, but I couldn't get either of them working this morning, the ones that I found. So let's have a chat with Eliza. Hello, I'm Eliza. How are you today? What would you like to discuss? How about birds? Have you asked anyone else? No. Are you sure? I don't know. Actually, I did talk about birds with my class on Discord. I see. Do you though? We were discussing you, not me. Yes. Got to read it there. You too. So Eliza is a chat bot, as you can see, and I'm chatting with her. Eliza was created in 1966, and because Eliza is a work of parody, in other words, meant to be a joke, and jokes are a literary genre. I think this does also certainly count as a very early example of of electronic literature. And Lou is pointing out that many times people do have interactions with Eliza that are confusing or strange, and it's because Eliza is not very complicated. The programming is just not very complicated. All Eliza does is look for like patterns and then repeat things back to you. And so the joke of this is that it's not so much a joke about computing as it is a joke about psychotherapy, particularly a kind of counseling or therapy where the therapist simply asks the patient, like, how do you feel about that? And what do you think? They just kind of keep asking them questions. The therapist doesn't offer any insight of their own. They just repeat things back to the patient. And yeah, I don't know if that works or not in a clinical counseling sense. I don't know. It's not my field. But the joke of this is to say that actually is not good. I mean, that's the critique, is that this is not actually helping anyone. And so that's why it's a joke here. And so Eliza is, the thing though about Eliza, as Lou's response indicates, is that people do tend to attribute personality to it, or they feel like, this is a person. But it's not. I mean, this is it, right? So this is it in JavaScript. It's not even very long, the code. But the fact that we tend to think that Eliza is complicated, that she has AI, that she's some kind of person on the other end of the computer, that's called the Eliza effect. And it's an effect because it's not actually true. There are stories about it. Like there's a famous story that I'm pretty sure is not true, about the idea that Weizenbaum's secretary was interacting with Eliza, didn't realize that it was a computer program, and asked for more time with the therapist because she was really making progress with her issues. Like that's a story that gets told. I actually don't know if it's true or not, but there's a certain kind of slightly misogynist flavor to that story, like this idea that this female employee was fooled by this program. Like that's just sort of a mean joke, I think. And I don't know if it's true or not as a story, but the fact that it gets told as a story kind of indicates a sort of chauvinism about tech culture. But in any case, I think people do find the experience of interacting with Eliza compelling enough to make it believable that someone might not realize that it was a bot. It's an Eliza effect because the perception of complexity is much greater than the actual fact of complexity. Like we perceive it as not, we perceive it as much more complicated than it actually is because of how cleverly it works with language. And it kind of hacks into the set of assumptions about intersubjectivity that we make around language. Oh yeah, I think that's a good point, Lou. Yeah. All right, so yeah, that's a really good interpretation. So, but of course, I guess the joke is that it doesn't work too. But that's another layer to that. So yeah, good. All right, so speaking of things that are different, things that are okay. So this is something else. This is a work called Facade, and I am going to demo it for you here. I think I have to make sure the audio works. But Facade is almost like the opposite of Eliza in that it's much more complicated than it looks. So Facade actually does have a really robust narrative generating system built into it. But you might not perceive it that way. It might seem kind of awkward and stilted, as you'll see when I try to work with it. And so it's almost like the opposite, like the inverse of the Eliza effect, where we assume because it's kind of awkward to work with that it must not be very smart, but it actually is very smart. It just doesn't always communicate that smartness in a way that makes sense dramatically, or it doesn't work as dramatically as we would expect it to. So I'm going to start up here and run this demo here. I was surprised that this was not mentioned in the chapter because I think it's a good example of interactive fiction. Maybe it's mentioned elsewhere in Ratberg's book, I don't remember, but I think it's a good thing to try to demo today. So here it is. This is a work that is, hopefully the audio is going to come through. After it takes a while to load because, again, as I was saying, it's a complex work. The premise is that your friends Grace and Trip are inviting you over for dinner, and we are going to see them in a second or two, and or a minute or two, however long it takes to load. And so you all remember this game. That's interesting. People do stream it a lot because it's because it's funny to mess with it. I think that's how people play it. I'm really interested to see that you all actually are familiar with this.
Hey, it's Trip.
Yeah, so 2005, right? So that, I guess...
It's, wow.
I guess maybe you would be,
It's been a while since we all,
Can you hear the audio okay? Because that's... I can't tell for sure.
Grace and I thought it'd be, great if you came over tonight. Really, it'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah. So, just, stop by tonight, around 8 or so.
Okay, thanks, Patrick.
It'll be great.
So this is like this awkward little prologue
can't wait to
thing.
See ya.
Yeah, so people do like meme, like as you'll see, you can do different things to mess with it. And it takes a while to load it. I think there's a way to skip that, but I can't remember how. You can definitely lose the game very quickly, but if you think of it as a game that can be won or lost, I think that's kind of missing the point, although that's fine if people do. I mean, that's kind of the joke of some of those streamers. Patrick remembers it now. This is, your goal basically is to try and talk to, I'll be Walter, to talk to your friends Grace and Trip, and they are a married couple. They are having some problems with their marriage. And so your goal is to try to, well, your goal can be to try to help them work out their issues and have, come to some resolution. Otherwise, they are going to end up arguing quite a bit. So let's play. That's great, Faith. I love that you all have already played this game, because this is a game that is, it's an example of interactive fiction, and it was created by two, scholars, researchers of interactive fiction. Yeah, all right, so. So the way this works, instead of it being a turn-based thing like you see with Zork and everything else, I keep knocking.
Walter!
Hey, it's been
you actually just start typing whenever.
How are you doing? Wow, it's really, really great to see you. So, come on in.
So you can move around the arrow keys.
It'll be just a sec while I go get Grace.
Grace.
Pick up their phone. Oh, they have a Nokia phone. I don't need that. Yeah, I had like the subtitles because it's saying unintelligible arguing. Let's see if they're in here.
No, here we are.
Oh, here you are.
Walter.
Hi, how are you? God, it's been a while.
Right,
Hey, that's what I said.
Happy smiles.
And I've got to say, you look really good. So come on in, make yourself at home. Well, Walter.
It's funny how she says
That's kind
Walter.
of a bold way to say hello.
So they, what you'll see is they have pretty complex,
Walter,
like micro expressions whenever you say things that they find awkward, or different.
Walter, come here. I
and-
want you to look at this.
Okay, so I guess I should go see what Trip wants me to look at. So you can see Grace is annoyed. All right, so there's these
Trip,
pretty
darling,
complex
your obsession with that photo is making our friend
emotional states for these
uncomfortable.
different, these people.
Hey,
Ooh,
Walter.
Whoops,
Seeing you
sorry.
brings back good memories,
Where
you
is he?
know?
Yes,
there
it
he is.
does.
great to see you.
Yeah, tonight is special.
Thank
Walter, remember it was almost exactly 10 years ago tonight that you introduced... Oh, I didn't think you wanted to hear about the Italy trip tonight.
So I've confused Trip. I've got him
So,
off his track.
10 years ago, That's when you introduced us, right? We really want to thank you for years.
All right, so
and
the other thing,
years
I
of
mean, what you've
agony.
you can interact with them
no,
in a way that's
it's great you could be here tonight.
you have this
Oh,
link that says
hugging me.
comfort,
Walter,
and then you can hug.
careful. Too much affection can go to Trip's head.
Right, you can also kiss them, but you can see that
Uh,
isn't received very well.
Wow, that was whoa.
So this is how to get kicked out. Like you will get kicked out pretty quickly if you keep keep kissing them, basically. So, but you see they back away from you. They get awkward. Like the social, the social cues I think are really pretty
It's really
subtle.
time that we.
All right, so I'm gonna stop
We need to
messing with
clean
them.
the
You see
floor
that?
cleaner thingy.
It's funny because sometimes they'll just get angry,
needs
like
a
then
new-
they'll
Yes,
just
right.
shove you out the door.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can get that to happen here. He looks so horrified.
All right,
Okay,
Walter, that's it. You've got to
yeah,
leave.
so they're kicking me out. Okay, that's fine.
You'll be
But you can see,
fine.
I mean, that was me
You
kind of
should
messing with it. But
go.
you can actually play through the game, and it's pretty. It's interesting and it's challenging to get to do that. Melon, really? Okay, I'll try that next time. That's good enough for now, though. All right, so that's Facade, and Facade is interactive drama. It's interactive fiction. It's definitely the kind of thing we're doing here, and it's also trying to be drama. Like it's trying to be, it's trying to be like an adult-oriented story. Like it's aimed at adults. Like it's not really trying to be a game, although many people do play it as a game, and they try to make meta games out of it, like see how fast you can get kicked out, that kind of thing. But there's also there's a certain challenge to trying to get it to a like a happy ending, and that's definitely a challenge. Like it's not easy. I've tried, and I don't think I've ever succeeded. Okay, so let's talk about a couple more things, and I'm running out of time, but let me just show you a couple things here. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna skip the Colossal Cave thing, other than just quickly to show you this link. This is a really good article about it, and what's cool about it is this talks about Colossal Cave Adventure, the software, but Dennis Dirch, the author of this article, actually he went to the cave, and the actual cave that it's based on, and he took pictures. So you can see him in the cave, and this is like talking about the source code, going into it, and there he is, the author of this article, going exploring and kind of literally doing archaeology to find the what inspired this game, Colossal Cave Adventure, which I don't have time to demo right now. I just wanted to mention one thing or a couple things about Zork, right? So you played Zork, right? I showed Zork just now, and I think there's an interesting kind of disconnect that happens when we talk about who we are as we play the game, and what kind of game it is, and what kind of person you are. So think about that for a moment. Like, who are you when you play Zork? What do you look like when you play Zork? Who is the character you're playing as? What is their gender? What is their height? Their build? Why are they there? These kinds of things are questions you may not have wondered about, but it's interesting to think about. Like, most people, when I ask them that, they would say, like, in Zork, you're given no other information about your player character when you play the game. In fact, if you try to look at yourself, you can't. It just basically says you can't do that because you don't have prehensile eyes. So it sort of resists that definition of you. But if you went to a computer store and you bought this game off the shelf, you would actually have maybe a different idea of the player character. So for example, if you bought the TRS-80 version of the game, you might have seen this box art on the cover and had a different sense of who you're playing as. So this game, I don't know who created this artwork. It's not always like there's different editions and different box arts, but for this particular one, it's a very specific image of the player character, and it's an image that I think many players find somewhat jarring in that it's not what they thought of themselves as. This mustachioed gentleman with a helmet and sword. Even the Gru looks pretty kind of like a gorilla back here. I don't know if that's what you would have thought of the Gru. I think that's the Gru back there. This is the White House. Like, this White House looks much more elegant and elaborate than the White House in my mind when I played the game. There's the mailbox, so we can confirm that this is the White House that we're reading about when we play the game. This down here, this cowering figure, is the troll, I think. And so there's a lot of many features of this character that are probably pretty different from you, and so it's interesting, right? So this is because this cover the cover isn't really canon, like it's not really built into the game. It's what we call paratext, meaning that it's something that you use to access the text. It's like on your way into the text. It's like in a novel, the cover is a paratext, or the title page is a paratext. These are things that are the apparatuses around the text that help us access the text. And so if you had to come to Zork through this cover, you might have a different sense of it. That's all to say, like, we do so much with our minds whenever we play these games. And I had a video clip I was going to show you, but obviously we're out of time, so I'll upload it to Canvas, I guess, later. To show you one of the creators of Zork talking about that question of what we do in our minds when we play these games, and how that's, you know, better, and in his view, better than what we do when we play video games with graphics. All right, so I think I covered everything I wanted to today. The majority of it, anyway. I did want to demo Colossal Cave, but I guess that's all right. Okay, so I'll wrap it up. A little past 11, so it's time to wrap things up. On Wednesday, I will see the Odd Cohort in person in the HCC room 329. I'll send you a reminder about that if I remember to. Everyone else will be on Zoom, and the link is on schedule. It's the same link from now on, so every Zoom meeting that we have as a class is always going to be that same link, so you can add it to your calendars or whatever else you need to. All right, so have a good afternoon or morning or what, I don't know. Have a good day, whatever it is. Thanks for watching the stream, and I'll see some of you in person Wednesday and everyone else online Wednesday and Friday. So, all right, yeah, enjoy the weather. It's a nice day. And don't forget, get to the end of Photopia. You have to get to the end. Okay, see you all later. Bye. Let me see. I guess, no, I don't want to put on any music. I'll switch to the bird cam for a minute or two, just in case something comes back.